The gift bag was white with gold tissue paper. Tasteful. Expensive looking. My mother-in-law handed it to me at my own bridal shower in front of 42 women who'd known her longer than they'd known my name. I pulled out the first item. A gym membership. 12 months, prepaid, to her country club fitness center. The second item. A cookbook called Feeding Him Right, a modern guide to cooking for your man. And at the bottom, a handwritten note on cream cardstock, in her perfect cursive. You'll need these more than a ring. Every woman in that room laughed. My future mother-in-law stood there beaming like she'd just given me the gift of a lifetime. My fiancé wasn't supposed to be there. Men don't come to bridal showers. But he walked through the door, picked up the gym membership, read that note, and said one quiet sentence that made his own mother cry in front of every woman she'd ever tried to impress. But that's not where this story starts. It starts 14 months earlier, the first time Vivian Whitfield looked at me and decided I wasn't enough. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. I'm Morgan, 31, a nurse practitioner in a small North Carolina town. This is the story of how my mother-in-law spent 14 months trying to control my wedding, and how one bridal shower gift bag ended 36 years of her reign. If you've ever sat at a family table and swallowed what you really wanted to say, stay for this one. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. I grew up in Brevard, North Carolina. Population 12,000 on a good day. My mother was a dental assistant at the only practice in town that took Medicaid. My father left when I was 9, packed a duffel bag on a Tuesday morning, said he'd be back by dinner, and never came back. Mom didn't talk about it. She just picked up extra shifts. I learned 2 things from watching her. Nobody is coming to save you, and you can cry after the work is done. I started working at 18. Night shifts at the Quick Mart on Asheville Highway, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 4 nights a week, while I took classes at Blue Ridge Community College during the day. I'd study pharmacology between customers buying cigarettes and gas at 3 in the morning. My first savings account had $412 in it. I remember the exact number because I'd never seen that much money with my name on it. Nursing school took 4 years. I graduated magna cum laude, not because I was smarter than anyone, but because I didn't have the luxury of failing. By 28, I was a nurse practitioner at Mountain Family Health Clinic in Hendersonville, 30 minutes from Brevard. I saw 30 patients a day, ear infections, blood pressure checks, diabetes management, the kind of work nobody films documentaries about but everybody needs. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment on Church Street. Small kitchen, 1 window that got morning light. Every dish, every towel, every piece of furniture in that apartment was bought with money I earned. I didn't have much, but everything I had was mine, and I'd learned early that the only person who'd build my life was me. What I hadn't learned yet was what happens when someone decides your life isn't built to their standards. Daniel Whitfield walked into my clinic on a Thursday afternoon with a 2-inch gash on his left palm. He'd been fixing a fence on his family's property and the wire snapped. He needed a tetanus shot and 4 stitches. I cleaned the wound, gave him the shot, and sutured the cut while he sat perfectly still and asked me about my day. Not politely, genuinely. Most patients want to talk about themselves. Daniel asked what time I'd started my shift, whether I liked the work, and if I'd eaten lunch. I hadn't. He came back the next week to get the stitches checked. The wound was fine. He asked me to coffee. Daniel was a corporate attorney at a firm in Charlotte, an hour and 40 minutes east. He drove to Hendersonville every weekend to check on his family's property and to see his parents. He was 33, quiet for a Whitfield, and had the kind of steady patience that I recognized from my own mirror. Our first date was at Blue Ridge Roasters on Main Street. He ordered black coffee. I ordered the same. We talked for 3 hours. He didn't mention his family's name, their house, or their money. Not once. By the 3rd date, I realized Daniel was the first man who asked about my work and actually listened to the answer. By the 6th date, I'd told him about my father leaving. He didn't try to fix it or explain it. He just said, "That must have been hard." And then he changed the subject, because he understood that some things don't need to be unpacked. They just need to be acknowledged. I was falling for him, and I'd have kept falling, quietly and happily, if it hadn't been for one thing. Then I met his mother. The Whitfield house sat on a hill on the west side of Hendersonville. Colonial style, white columns, circular driveway. The kind of house that makes you check your shoes before you walk in. Daniel brought me for Sunday dinner 3 months into dating. Vivian Whitfield met us at the door. She was 58, tailored blouse, pearl earrings, handshake like a job interview. "So you're a nurse," she said, looking at me the way you'd look at a stain on a tablecloth. "That's very—" She paused. "Selfless." The pause was the weapon. Selfless was the sheath. Inside 20 minutes, she'd mapped my entire background with surgical efficiency. My mother's job, my father's absence, my apartment on Church Street, my car, a 12-year-old Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door. When I mentioned my mother was a dental assistant, Vivian smiled. "How nice." Gerald's mother was a surgeon. Gerald was Vivian's husband, 61, commercial real estate developer, built like a man who used to work with his hands and now paid other people to. He sat at the head of the table scrolling his phone and said almost nothing. Vivian had arranged the seating so I was at the far end of the table 3 chairs away from Daniel. Patricia, Daniel's older sister, 36, sat between us. She had the same pearl earrings as her mother. Dinner was filet mignon, asparagus, and a silence so thick you could butter it. When Daniel and I left, he apologized in the driveway. "She's like that with everyone at first," I said. "She's your mother. I can handle it." I meant it. I'd handled worse than a woman with pearl earrings and an opinion. What I didn't account for was that Vivian Whitfield didn't have opinions. She had campaigns. Patricia showed up at my apartment 2 weeks later, unannounced. "Just stopping by," she said, already scanning the living room like a home inspector with a grudge. She took photos. "For the family group chat," she explained, holding her phone at angles that captured the water stain on the ceiling and the IKEA bookshelf I'd assembled myself. That Thursday, my phone started buzzing with Patricia's suggestions. A text at 7 a.m. "Daniel prefers his shirts folded, not hung." Another at noon. "He doesn't like garlic, just FYI." A third at 9 p.m. "Mom thinks you should consider highlights. She has a great stylist." Each text was signed with a smiley face, as if a smiley face could disguise an order. I showed Daniel. He sighed. "That's just Trish. She means well." I wanted to believe him. Then Gerald called Daniel that weekend. I could hear Gerald's voice through the phone. Not loud, just steady. "Your mother just wants to be included. Is that so much to ask?" Gerald's contribution to every Whitfield conflict was the same sentence, rearranged slightly. "Your mother means well. Your mother is just excited. Your mother wants what's best." He was the director of logistics for Vivian's operations. He supplied the funding, she supplied the strategy. I started to see the architecture. Vivian controlled, Patricia enforced, Gerald funded, and Daniel was the product they were trying to protect. On her way out of my apartment that day, Patricia paused at the door. "You know, Vivian's last favorite for Daniel was a pediatrician from Asheville. Didn't work out. But she was lovely." She said lovely the way Vivian said selfless, like a compliment wrapped around a warning. Daniel proposed 11 months after our first date. At Blue Ridge Roasters. Same table, same black coffee. He didn't get down on one knee. He slid a ring across the table like he was passing a note in class. A simple solitaire on a thin gold band. I loved it. I loved him. I said yes before he finished asking. We called our families that night. My mother cried happy tears for 6 minutes straight. Vivian's response was silence. Then, "Shouldn't we discuss this as a family first?" Daniel said, "We just did, Mom." Morgan said yes. That weekend, Vivian hosted what she called an engagement celebration at the Henderson County Country Club. She'd booked the private dining room, ordered champagne, and invited 35 of her closest friends. She did not invite my mother. When I asked about it, Vivian said, "Oh, I assumed she'd be uncomfortable in this setting." My mother, who'd spent 30 years making nervous patients comfortable in a dental chair, would have been fine. But I let it go. I shouldn't have. At the party, Vivian introduced me to each of her friends using the same formula. This is Daniel's pause. Fiancé now, I suppose. Every introduction felt like a reluctant admission. Patricia took a photo of my ring and posted it in the family group chat. The caption, "Sweet, very dainty." I knew what dainty meant in Whitfield vocabulary. It meant small. It meant cheap. It meant not enough. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "The ring is perfect." I squeezed back. The ring isn't the problem. I was starting to understand something about the Whitfield family. Every event was a performance. Every performance had an audience. And Vivian was always the director. What I didn't know yet was how far she'd go to control a show that wasn't hers. Wedding planning started the next week. Daniel and I wanted something small. Outdoor ceremony at Wildberry Creek Vineyard, 45 minutes from Hendersonville, 80 guests, farm-to-table dinner, wildflower arrangements, cornflowers and black-eyed Susans, the kind that grew along the roads in Brevard. Within 7 days, Vivian had called the venue, not to ask, to add 40 additional guests, all hers, country club friends, church committee members, the school board chair's wife, people I'd never met and never would. She called the caterer and changed the menu. Farm to table was too casual. She ordered plated filet mignon with béarnaise sauce. She replaced the wildflower arrangements with white roses and eucalyptus. She did all of this without telling us. I found out when the venue manager emailed me a revised invoice, $14,000 more than our original budget. I called Daniel. "Your mother added 40 people and changed the menu." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "Let me talk to her." He talked to her. She cried. She said she was just trying to help. She said planning Daniel's wedding was a dream she'd had since he was born. She said Morgan was being rigid. Daniel came back to me and said, "I think she'll back off now." She didn't back off. I checked the venue's online portal the next morning. The guest list had been changed again. 3 more names added overnight. The login credentials had been shared with Gerald's email. They had access I didn't know about. That was the first time I realized Vivian wasn't helping. She was replacing me. Replacing the wildflowers with her roses. Replacing the 80 people who mattered with 120 people who didn't. And if I didn't stop it, she'd replace the bride too. I changed the venue password, removed Gerald's access, called the venue manager and told her that no changes were to be made without my direct authorization. Voice confirmation, not email. Vivian found out within 48 hours. She didn't call me. She called Daniel. "I understand," she told him, her voice smooth as church organ music. "It's your day. I'll step back." She did not step back. The next Saturday was my dress fitting. I'd chosen a bridal shop in Asheville, a small place run by a woman named Helen who'd been fitting brides for 30 years. I'd picked a simple A-line dress, clean, elegant, no beading. It cost $800 and it made me feel like myself. I was trying it on when Patricia walked in. "Oh, I was just in the area," she said. She was not just in the area. Asheville is 45 minutes from Hendersonville, and the shop was on a side street with no foot traffic. She had a folder. Inside, printouts of 5 dresses Vivian had selected. Ball gowns, cathedral trains, price tags ranging from $8,000 to $12,000. "Mom thought you might want to see some options," Patricia said, spreading the printouts on the counter. Helen looked at me. I looked at the printouts. Then I looked at Patricia. "I already chose my dress. But thank you." Patricia gathered the printouts slowly. "She'll be disappointed." I bought the A-line that afternoon. $800. My money. My dress. I wore it to my wedding 6 months later, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever put on. Not because of how it looked, because nobody else chose it for me. But the dress fight was just a skirmish. Vivian's real campaign was already underway. I just didn't know it yet. I want to pause here because I know some of you are sitting there thinking, "Morgan, Just tell her off already. I hear you. But I was still trying. Still hoping Daniel could reach his mother. Still hoping 14 months of patience would earn me a seat at that table. What I didn't know was that Vivian had already decided I'd never sit there. The emails were already being sent. 3 months before the wedding, small things started going wrong. The florist called on a Monday morning to confirm the change to all-white arrangements. I hadn't requested any change. I'd ordered wildflowers, cornflowers, black-eyed Susans, sprigs of lavender. Mrs. Whitfield called last Thursday, the florist said. She said she was coordinating on behalf of the couple. I called the photographer next. Same story. Rebecca, our photographer, had received an email requesting a new timeline. Ceremony moved from 4 p.m. to 2 p.m. I assumed you and Daniel discussed it, Rebecca said. I called the caterer. They asked if they should proceed with Mrs. Whitfield's menu revisions. Revised menu. The farm-to-table dinner I'd planned was gone. In its place, a 3-course plated dinner with filet mignon, lobster bisque, and a dessert table featuring a 5-tier fondant cake I'd never agreed to. I sat at my kitchen table with my phone and made 4 more calls. The DJ had received a new playlist, all classics. Every song Daniel and I had chosen removed. The baker had been told to change the cake flavor from carrot to vanilla buttercream because carrot cake was not elegant enough. The rental company had been asked to swap our wooden farm tables for round banquet tables with white linens. Every single call came with the same explanation. Mrs. Whitfield called. She said she was coordinating on behalf of the couple. I locked the venue accounts, but I hadn't locked the vendor relationships. Vivian hadn't needed the venue password. She'd gone around it, straight to every individual vendor, using a voice so smooth and so authoritative that not one of them thought to verify. I traced the vendor calls. Every one of them came from the same phone number. Not Vivian's cell. Gerald's office line at Whitfield Properties. She'd used his business phone so the calls would look official. A real estate company, not a personal number. Professional, authoritative, calculated. Daniel confronted his father that Sunday. I wasn't there, but Daniel told me every word. Gerald sat in his leather chair in his home office, hands folded like a man being deposed. Your mother means well, Gerald said. She's just excited about the wedding. Daniel. Dad, she changed our florist, our caterer, our photographer's timeline, our cake, our music, our tables. Gerald. Is any of that really worth a fight? Daniel stared at him. She erased every choice Morgan and I made. Gerald looked at his desk. Weddings are stressful. Everyone gets emotional. That night, Daniel sat on the edge of my couch with his head in his hands. I'm sorry, he said. I'll fix this. I looked at him. I loved this man. I loved his patience, his decency, his belief that his family could be better than they were. But I'd heard, I'll fix this before. You've said that 4 times now, Daniel. He looked up. His eyes were tired. I know. I wasn't angry. I was something worse than angry. I was tired in the same way he was. I recognized the pattern clearly now. Gerald enables, Daniel apologizes, Vivian continues. A loop so old it had worn grooves in the floor. At midnight, Gerald sent Daniel a text. Don't upset your mother over flowers, son. Pick your battles. Daniel showed me the text. I read it twice. Then I turned off the lamp and said, She's not going to stop. You know that, right? He didn't answer, but he didn't disagree. 6 weeks before the wedding, the calls started. Not calls to vendors this time, calls to my guests. My college roommate Tara called me on a Wednesday afternoon. Hey, I got a weird call from someone named Vivian. She said the wedding was postponed and I'd get a new date. I felt something cold slide down my spine. The wedding isn't postponed. Tara went quiet. Then, Morgan, who is this woman? I called Lisa, my coworker at the clinic. Same story. Vivian had called her the day before and said the venue had changed. The wedding was moving to a smaller location, and it was going to be intimate family only now. I spent that evening on the phone. 8 of my 12 invited guests had received calls from Vivian. 8. Each one had been told a different version of the same lie: postponed, relocated, downsized, all designed to remove my people from my wedding. She kept every one of her 40 guests on the list. Not one of her church friends got a call saying the wedding was off. Only mine. I reconfirmed with each person, explained the situation as calmly as I could. 6 said they'd still come. 2 had already made other plans. Tara had booked a work trip. My nursing school friend Deanne had committed to her niece's birthday party. Gone. My mother-in-law was erasing me from my own wedding. Not all at once. Guest by guest. Call by call. Like removing stitches from a wound she wanted to keep open. I stood in my kitchen that night, phone on the counter, and thought about walking away. For about 6 seconds. Then I thought about the $800 dress hanging in my closet. My dress. My choice. And I decided that Vivian Whitfield would not get to unmake what I'd made. Daniel drove to the Whitfield house the next morning. I stayed home. He told me every word when he got back. He walked in without knocking. First time he'd ever done that. Vivian was in the kitchen arranging hydrangeas. "Mom," he said, "you called Morgan's guests and told them the wedding was off." Vivian set down the hydrangeas. She blinked twice. Then the tears came. Not slow tears. Instant, full, mascara-preserving tears. The kind of crying that's been rehearsed so many times it activates on command. "I have given everything for this family," she said, her voice cracking at exactly the right frequency. "I hosted your graduation party. I organized your father's 60th birthday. I chaired the fundraiser that paid for the church roof. And now you're telling me I can't even help with my own son's wedding?" She escalated. "Your grandmother Rose never let me in either. I thought you'd be different, Daniel. I thought my own son would be different." Patricia appeared from the hallway. Already there. Already listening. "Danny, Mom just wants to feel included. Morgan is being very..." She searched for the word. "Rigid." Daniel sat there for 40 minutes while his mother cried and his sister built the case that I was the problem. When he left, he called me from the driveway. His voice was flat. "Maybe we should let her have a few things." I was quiet for a long time. I looked at the wall of my apartment where I'd hung the wedding timeline, the original one, the one Daniel and I had made together on my kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and 2 cups of coffee. "Daniel," I said. "She didn't ask to have a few things. She took them." Sunday dinner at the Whitfield house. Everyone performing normalcy. Filet mignon, asparagus, Gerald on his phone, Patricia reporting on her children's school activities, Vivian presiding. I excused myself to use the restroom. On the way back through the hallway, I stopped. A framed photograph I'd walked past a dozen times but never really looked at. Vivian. Young. Maybe 22. Standing at what had to be her own wedding reception. You could see the edge of a white tablecloth. Champagne glasses. A spray of flowers behind her. She was smiling, but it was the smile of someone trying very hard to look like they belonged. Behind her, an older woman. Grandma Rose, I realized, Gerald's mother, was turned completely away, talking to someone else. Her back to Vivian. At Vivian's own wedding. Gerald found me standing there. He was heading to his office, his permanent escape route. He stopped. Looked at the photo. "Mom," he said, meaning Rose. She never thought Vivian was good enough. Said she wasn't the right fit for the Whitfield family. Took Vivian about 15 years to stop trying to win her over. I looked at the girl in the photo. I recognized her. Not her face. Her posture. Shoulders slightly curled, chin slightly lifted, trying to take up space while feeling like she had no right to it. I'd stood like that at Vivian's dinner table 3 months ago. Vivian became Rose. The girl who was never accepted grew into the woman who accepts no one. A cycle so old the frame had yellowed. I felt sorry for that girl in the photograph. But that girl had 36 years to choose differently. 36 years to break the pattern. She didn't break it. She perfected it. Knowing why someone hurts you doesn't make the hurt optional. 4 weeks before the wedding, a Tuesday, I was charting patient notes at the clinic when my phone buzzed with an email notification. Rebecca, our photographer. The subject line, re, re, timeline update, Whitfield Meadows wedding. I opened it and my stomach dropped. Rebecca had accidentally forwarded an entire email chain to me instead of replying only to Vivian. 47 emails, 4 months of correspondence. I read every single one during my lunch break, sitting in my car in the clinic parking lot with the engine off. Vivian to the florist. Please disregard the wildflower order, white roses and eucalyptus only. Vivian to the caterer. The farm-to-table concept won't work. Please see the revised menu attached. Vivian to the DJ. I've attached a new playlist. The previous selections were youthful. Vivian to the venue manager. We'll need to adjust the seating chart. I've attached the updated guest list. Please note the additions in yellow. 23 guests I'd never approved. The ceremony timeline moved twice. The cake flavor changed, the napkin color changed, the rehearsal dinner location changed, and at the bottom of every email, CC, Gerald Whitfield. He wasn't just silent, he was coordinating, but the email that stopped me cold was from 3 weeks earlier. Vivian to the caterer. Please remove the vegetarian options, they won't be needed. My mother is vegetarian. Vivian knew that. She'd asked about it at the first dinner. Any dietary restrictions in your family, dear? My mother had answered honestly, and Vivian had used it. 47 emails, 4 months, CC, Gerald, and 1 line about removing the vegetarian options because my mother's presence wasn't part of the plan. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes. Then I went back inside and finished my shift. Because the work doesn't stop because your hands are shaking. I didn't call Daniel that night. I went home, opened my laptop, and went through every email in that chain. All 47. I created a folder. I screenshotted every message. I cross-referenced each vendor change against the original agreements Daniel and I had signed. Side by side. Original plan. Vivian's version. 14 pages. I color-coded it. Green for what we'd agreed to. Red for what Vivian changed. There was a lot of red. Then I picked up the phone and called each vendor personally. The florist. I reconfirmed the wildflower order, gave her a new password for any future changes, and asked her to reject all requests that didn't include that password. The caterer. Same. The DJ. Same. The venue manager. Same. Every account relocked. Every vendor resecured. Every back door Vivian had walked through closed. The last call I made was to Rebecca, the photographer who'd accidentally forwarded the chain. I'm so sorry, Rebecca said. I thought you knew about all of it. I do now. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Whitfield is very thorough. Yes, I said. She is. I saved the folder to my desktop. I labeled it with today's date and the word evidence. Then I closed my laptop and made myself dinner. I ate slowly. I washed the dishes. I swept the kitchen floor. The folder sat on my desktop for 3 days, not because I was hesitating, because I was thinking. Vivian had spent 4 months building a shadow wedding behind my back. She'd used Gerald's office phone. She'd CC'd him on every email. She'd removed my mother's meal from the menu. This wasn't about flowers or cake flavors. This was about erasure. And I needed Daniel to see it. Not hear it from me, not read a summary. See the full scope with his own eyes. 3 days later, a Friday evening, Daniel came to my apartment after work, still in his suit. I'd made coffee. I set his cup on the kitchen table next to my laptop. I need you to read something. He sat down. I opened the folder. 47 emails. 14 pages of comparisons. I didn't narrate. I didn't explain. I let him read. He read for 20 minutes without speaking. His coffee went cold. I watched his face go from confusion to recognition to something I'd never seen on Daniel Whitfield. Cold, quiet fury. He got to the email about the vegetarian options. His jaw tightened. She removed your mother's meal. Yes. He kept reading. He got to the CC line. Gerald Whitfield on every single email. He closed the laptop slowly. His eyes were red. Not crying. Past crying. I didn't know. I know you didn't. That's why I'm showing you, not telling you. He was quiet for a long time. The apartment was so still I could hear the refrigerator hum. What do you want me to do? He asked. I looked at him. This man I loved. This man who'd spent 33 years trying to keep peace with a woman who used peace as a weapon. I don't want you to do anything yet, I said. I want you to know what's real. And then I want you to decide what kind of family you want. Daniel stayed at my apartment that night. He didn't call his mother. He didn't call his father. He sat on my couch and read those emails 2 more times, and I could see something shifting behind his eyes. The last load-bearing wall of "she means well," cracking under the weight of 47 documented lies. I know what some of you are thinking. Why didn't you just cancel the wedding and walk away? I thought about it. For about 6 seconds. But I didn't build my life by running from hard things. I built it by showing up and doing the work. Vivian had 47 emails and a 14-month head start. I had a folder. And the truth. And sometimes the truth is the only weapon you need. 2 weeks before the shower, Vivian called Daniel. I'm hosting Morgan's bridal shower at the Laurel Room. I've already booked it, sent invitations, arranged everything. It's my gift to her. The Laurel Room was a restored barn-turned event space on the outskirts of Hendersonville. Exposed beams, Edison bulb string lights, farm tables. Vivian had hosted 3 committee events there. It was her stage, her territory, her lighting. The guest list, 42 women. 38 of them were Vivian's. Country club friends, church committee members, the school board chair's wife. 4 were mine, Jenna, my mom, Tara, and Lisa. Daniel told me over the phone. My first instinct was to decline. Then I stopped. I thought about the folder on my desktop, the 47 emails, the 4 months of secret coordination. I thought about who Vivian was. A woman who needed an audience, who needed control, who needed every room arranged in her image. A woman who couldn't help herself. If I said no, she'd tell everyone I was ungrateful. She'd be the wounded mother-in-law, and I'd be the difficult bride. But if I said yes, she'd have a stage. And people who need a stage eventually show the audience who they really are. Tell her yes, I said. Daniel paused. Are you sure? I'm sure. Let her host it. Let her plan every detail. Let her fill the room with her people. He was quiet for a moment. You think she's going to do something? I looked at the folder on my desktop. 14 pages of red. I think your mother can't resist an audience. And I think 42 witnesses is plenty. 3 days before the shower, I printed the folder. All 14 pages, emails, vendor comparisons, the line about removing the vegetarian options, the CC to Gerald on every message. I put everything in a manila envelope and set it on my kitchen table. Daniel came over after work. I slid the envelope across the table the way he'd slid the ring across the coffee shop table a year ago. Your mother is going to do something at this shower, I said. I don't know what exactly, but she will. When she does, you'll have a choice. He looked at the envelope. What's this? Everything you need to see. Not a summary. Not my interpretation. The actual emails. The actual changes. All of it. He opened the envelope and spread the pages on the table. He'd already read the digital versions. But printed, laid out side by side. Original versus Vivian's version, green and red. It looked like what it was. A blueprint for erasure. He read it again. Every page. Then he looked at me. What do you want me to do? I want you to be nearby on Saturday. Not at the shower. That's not your space. But close. And if Jenna texts you, come. He nodded slowly. The coffee shop across the street. 5 minutes away. And if she doesn't do anything? Then we have a nice shower and I say thank you, and we move on. He folded the pages back into the envelope. He held it against his chest for a moment, like a man holding something heavy he'd been avoiding. Then, I'll be at the coffee shop by 10:30. He didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. But it wasn't anxiety keeping us awake. It was clarity. Saturday, 11 a.m. I wore a blue sundress. Nothing fancy. Nothing that tried too hard. Jenna picked me up. She was my maid of honor, my co-worker, and the best friend I'd ever had. She knew about the emails. She knew about the folder. She had Daniel's number saved as a favorite on her phone. "You okay?" she asked as we pulled into the gravel lot at the Laurel Room. "I'm ready," I said. And I was. I walked in and stopped 2 steps past the door. Photos. Everywhere. On every table. Every wall. Strung across the exposed beams on twine with tiny clothespins. Daniel at 5, learning to ride a bike. Daniel at 12, in a little league uniform. Daniel at prom. Daniel's law school graduation. Gerald shaking Daniel's hand. Vivian pinning a boutonniere on Daniel before some event. Photo after photo after photo. Every single one of Daniel. Not one photo of me. The color scheme was champagne and sage, Vivian's favorites, not navy and wildflower. The banner above the gift table read, "Our Daniel's next chapter." Not Morgan and Daniel. Not, "Congratulations, Morgan." Our Daniels. Like the wedding was something happening to him, and I was just the circumstance. My mother was already there, sitting in a folding chair near the back with Jenna's jacket draped over the empty chair beside her. She looked uncomfortable. Not because she didn't belong, because Vivian had made sure she felt like she didn't. Vivian met me at the entrance wearing a cream blazer and a smile that had been calibrated for maximum warmth with minimum sincerity. "Don't you look nice?" she said. The pause before nice landed exactly where she intended it to. Behind her, Patricia was setting up a camera on a tripod, pointed at the gift opening chair. The shower games came first. Vivian as MC, microphone in hand, reading from lavender index cards she'd written herself. "How well do you know the groom?" 10 questions. Daniel's favorite food as a child. His first pet's name. The street he grew up on. The name of his kindergarten teacher. Every question was designed to test knowledge that only people who'd known Daniel since birth would have, which meant every question was designed for me to fail. I got 3 out of 10. Vivian announced my score to the room with a laugh that was technically kind and functionally humiliating. "Don't worry, dear, you'll learn." Her friends echoed it. "Oh, you'll learn. Give it a few years." The laughter was warm on the surface and cold underneath. Like bathwater someone forgot to heat. Jenna squeezed my hand under the table. My mother adjusted her napkin, jaw tight, eyes on the floor. She'd raised me alone, worked double shifts, and driven 4 hours round trip every week for 2 years to visit me in college. She didn't say a word, because she knew, as I knew, that this wasn't a fight you win by arguing. This was a fight you win by waiting. Gift opening came next. My friends went first. A recipe box from my mother, handmade, with family recipes written on cards in her handwriting. A hand-knitted scarf from Jenna in the exact shade of blue I'd chosen for the wedding. A gift card and a sweet note from Lisa. Small gifts, real gifts. Vivian watched each one with the polite attention of someone waiting for the appetizers to end so the main course could be served. Patricia adjusted the camera angle. Then Vivian stood up. "I saved mine for last," she said, and she smiled. She carried the gift bag to me herself. White bag, gold tissue paper. She held it out like a communion offering. "I put a lot of thought into this," she said. The room went quiet. Not silent, but attentive. The way an audience gets right before the punchline. I pulled out the tissue paper. First item, a gym membership card. 12 months, prepaid, to the Henderson County Country Club Fitness Center. Vivian's club, where Vivian's friends worked out. Where Vivian would have been the one to see me walk in. Second item, a hardcover cookbook. Feeding Him Right, a modern guide to cooking for your man. The dust jacket featured a woman in a spotless kitchen wearing an apron and pearls. Third item, a handwritten note, cream cardstock. Vivian's perfect cursive. I read it once. Then I read it again. You'll need these more than a ring. Perfect cursive on cream cardstock, a gym membership to fix my body, a cookbook to fix my cooking, and a note telling me that being loved by her son wasn't enough. I needed to earn it by changing everything I was. One woman in the back gasped. Then Patricia laughed. Sharp. Performative. The kind of laugh that's an instruction to the room. This is funny. Laugh. And they did. Vivian's friends joined in. Then it was the whole room. 40 women laughing. Not all of them meant it, but enough of them did. Enough of them looked at the gym membership and the cookbook and the note and decided this was entertainment. My mother looked at the floor. Jenna's hand was shaking under the table. I could feel her reaching for her phone. I put the gym membership back in the bag. I put the cookbook back in the bag. I folded the note, carefully, along the creases, the way you fold something you intend to keep, and put it back. I set the bag on the table in front of me. Then I looked at Vivian, and I said nothing. Not one word. I sat there, spine straight, hands folded in my lap, and I looked directly at my future mother-in-law while the laughter circled the room like smoke. I didn't cry. I didn't stand up. I didn't leave. I just sat there and let every woman in that room see exactly what had happened. The laughter began to thin. Not because anyone felt guilty. Not yet. But because my silence was wrong. The script called for me to laugh along, or blush, or cry, or make a joke about how I really did need the gym membership. The script called for me to perform gratitude. I didn't perform. I sat still, and my stillness was louder than any response Vivian had prepared for. Vivian shifted her weight. She smoothed her blazer. She glanced at Patricia. Patricia lowered her phone, not putting it away, just lowering it, as if the footage had stopped being the kind she wanted. My mother sat in the back with her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles were white. She didn't intervene. She knew me well enough to know that my silence was not helplessness. Under the table, Jenna had already texted Daniel. Her phone screen glowed. Come now. I felt my own phone buzz in my purse. I didn't reach for it. I kept my eyes on Vivian. And I waited. The room waited with me, even though they didn't know what they were waiting for. The door was 5 minutes away from opening. The door opened. 42 women turned. Daniel stood in the entrance wearing jeans and the blue button-down he'd worn on our first date at Blue Ridge Roasters. He was breathing like he'd been running. The coffee shop was across the street, but he hadn't walked. His eyes found me first. I was sitting straight, dry-eyed. The gift bag was on the table. He looked at me the way you look at someone you love when you realize you should have been there sooner. Then he walked to the table. He picked up the gym membership, read the label, set it down. He picked up the cookbook, read the title, turned it over, set it down. He picked up the note, read it. I watched his jaw set, a slow tightening, like a door being bolted. He looked at his mother. Vivian's smile was still on her face, but it had frozen. The smile of a woman who'd rehearsed every reaction except this one. Daniel, sweetheart, she said, her voice dropping into the tender register she used when she needed control. We were just having fun. It was a joke. Daniel held up the note so the room could see the cursive. Who's laughing, Mom? Nobody was. The room was so quiet I could hear the string lights buzzing above us. Patricia's camera was still recording. Red light blinking. 42 women who'd laughed 60 seconds ago were now looking at their hands, their plates, the exits. Vivian reached for Daniel's arm. He stepped back. Not dramatically, just enough. The distance of a man drawing a line. I have something to say, he said. He turned toward the microphone stand, still set up from the shower games, still plugged in, still live. He picked it up. Daniel held the microphone the way he held his briefcase. Steady, professional, no tremor. He didn't raise his voice. He spoke the way I speak when I deliver bad news to patients. Level, clear, leaving no room for misunderstanding. I want every woman in this room to hear what I'm about to say. He looked at Patricia. You can keep filming. He turned to Vivian. Mom, I've read every email you sent to our wedding vendors. The word every landed like a stone in still water. Ripples moved through the room, glances exchanged, postures shifting. All 47 of them. Over 4 months. I know you changed the flowers Morgan chose. I know you changed the music we picked together. I know you changed the menu twice. I know you changed the cake from carrot to vanilla because carrot cake wasn't elegant enough for a Whitfield wedding. Vivian's hand went to her pearls. Her mouth opened. No sound came. I know you called 8 of Morgan's guests and told them the wedding was postponed. I know you removed the vegetarian options from the menu. He paused. Morgan's mother is vegetarian. You knew that. You asked her at dinner. My mother, in the back row, pressed her hand to her mouth. And I know Dad helped you. His email is CC'd on every single message. His office phone is the number every vendor has on file. He held up the note, the cream cardstock, the perfect cursive, and read it aloud one more time so there was no ambiguity. You'll need these more than a ring. He set the note on the table, face up, so anyone in the front row could read it. Then he looked at his mother. Before I tell you what Daniel said next, I want you to picture that room. 42 women. A camera on a tripod. A gift bag with a gym membership and a note in perfect cursive. And my fiancé, holding a microphone he never should have needed. What would you have wanted him to say? Keep watching. Daniel looked at Vivian. The room held its breath. I could hear the ice melting in someone's water glass. He said it once. Quiet. Final. The way a judge reads a verdict. You are not invited to our wedding. Vivian's hand dropped from her pearls to her chest. Her mouth opened, not to speak, to gasp. The sound that came out of her was something between a word and a wound. Patricia stepped forward. Danny. I'm not finished. He set the note down on the table, face up, the cursive legible to the entire front row. This is what my mother thinks of the woman I love. A gym membership, a cookbook, and a note telling her she's not enough. He turned to face the room. The committee chairs, the church fundraiser board members, the country club wives, the women who had laughed. You all laughed, every one of you. My mother handed the woman I'm going to marry a bag designed to humiliate her, in a room full of people, and you laughed. Nobody moved. One woman, Mrs. Caldwell, the church choir director, looked at her hands. Her face was the color of the cream cardstock. Vivian found her voice. It came out high, cracked. Nothing like the measured tone she'd used for 36 years. After everything I've done for you, I raised you, I paid for your education, I built this family's name, and you're choosing her, a nurse from Brevard, over your own mother? She was screaming now. Mascara running, hands shaking. The woman who never raised her voice, who controlled rooms with a whisper and a pause, was standing in the middle of the Laurel Room shrieking at her own son while a camera recorded every word. I sat in my chair. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Daniel had done what I'd given him the tools to do. I'd gathered the evidence. I'd built the case. I'd armed him with the truth and let him choose. And he chose me. Not because I asked him to, because the truth left him no other honest option. Vivian kept screaming. The words tumbled out in the wrong order, fragments of accusations, fragments of history, all of it collapsing like a house that had been standing on nothing but habit. She's turned you against me. That girl has... She doesn't even... Her father left. Daniel, her father left. And you think she knows how to be a wife? My mother stood up from her chair in the back. Jenna put a hand on her arm. My mother sat down. She didn't need to say anything. Everyone in the room had heard it. Patricia tried. Danny, Mom was just joking. Can we please talk about this privately? Daniel looked at her. Privately? She didn't humiliate Morgan privately. She did it in front of 42 people. So no. Patricia's eyes moved to the camera on the tripod. Still recording. Red light blinking. She'd set it up to capture my reaction. Instead, it had captured everything else. She reached for the tripod. Daniel's voice, steady. "Leave it on." Patricia's hand stopped in midair. She looked at Vivian, sobbing in a chair now, mascara in 2 dark lines down her cheeks. Then at Daniel, then at the camera. She lowered her hand. For the first time in her life, Patricia Whitfield Greer did not do what Vivian would have wanted. Then the room began to empty. Mrs. Caldwell stood up, picked up her purse, and walked out without a word. Then Mrs. Pemberton. Then 3 women from the garden club. They left the way people leave a building when they smell smoke. Quickly, quietly, without looking back. Nobody said goodbye to Vivian. Nobody hugged her. Nobody told her it would be okay. They just left. And the audience Vivian had built her whole life performing for walked out of the Laurel Room and didn't come back. The room was half empty now. Maybe 20 women left, most of them too stunned to move. Vivian was in a chair, sobbing into her hands. Patricia stood next to her, frozen, not comforting, not leaving, just standing there like a woman who'd misplaced her instructions. Daniel was still holding the microphone, but he'd lowered it. His hand was steady. His eyes were tired. I stood up. For the first time since the gift bag, I moved. I walked to Vivian. My heels clicked on the barn floor. 3 steps, 4, 5. I picked up the gift bag from the table, the gym membership, the cookbook, the note in perfect cursive. I set the bag gently in Vivian's lap. She looked up, mascara smeared, lipstick bitten, eyes swollen. She didn't look like the woman who'd controlled Henderson County for 36 years. She looked like the girl in the wedding photo, the one standing alone while Rose turned her back. I said one sentence, low enough that only the women still in the room could hear it, firm enough that none of them would forget it. "I think you'll need these more than I will." Vivian stared at me. I didn't raise my voice. The gym might help with the stress. The cookbook. Well, Gerald's going to need dinner when he gets home and has to explain those 47 emails. And the ring? I held up my left hand. The simple solitaire on the thin gold band. The ring Daniel slid across a coffee shop table. I earned this. And I earned the man who gave it to me. I turned to Jenna. "I think the shower's over." Jenna stood up. My mother stood up. Daniel set the microphone back on its stand. We walked out of the Laurel Room together. The nurse, the maid of honor, the dental assistant, and the lawyer who chose love over legacy. The parking lot was gravel and late morning sun. Jenna walked to her car to give us a minute. My mother stood by the passenger door, hands folded, eyes bright but dry. She'd kept it together the whole time. The shower games, the laughter, the gift bag, Vivian screaming. Now her chin trembled, just once, and she pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than any hug she'd given me since I was 9 years old, and my father's side of the closet was empty. "Your father would have been proud of you," she whispered. She didn't say it to make me cry. She said it because it was true, and because some truths need to be said out loud before the moment passes. Daniel was standing by his car, manila envelope tucked under his arm. He'd brought it. He hadn't needed it. The emails were in his head by now. Every line, every CC. But he'd brought it anyway. The way a lawyer brings evidence to court even when the verdict is already clear. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm sorry it took 47 emails and a gym membership for me to get here." I took his hand. "You got here. That's what matters." We stood in that gravel lot for a few minutes. Inside the Laurel Room, Patricia was helping Vivian to her car. I could hear Vivian's voice, not screaming anymore, just low, broken sounds that didn't form words. The camera was still inside, still on its tripod, still recording an empty room with champagne-colored decorations and photos of a boy whose mother loved him the only way she knew how, by controlling everything and everyone around him until control was the only language she spoke. Daniel turned off the camera later that evening, but by then it didn't matter. 42 women had seen everything they needed to see without a replay. The following week moved fast. I didn't post anything online, didn't tell anyone what happened. I didn't need to. Hendersonville is a small city, and 42 women is not a small number. By Monday, Vivian's co-chair on the First Baptist Church fundraiser committee called her to say she'd be handling things solo this year. The co-chair didn't explain. She didn't need to. 3 women from the fundraiser board had been at the shower. By Wednesday, 3 families pulled their children from the country club children's program that Patricia coordinated. No formal complaints, just quiet withdrawals, the kind of exit that doesn't leave a paper trail, but leaves a message. By Friday, Gerald called Daniel, not to apologize. Gerald Whitfield had never apologized for anything in 61 years, and he wasn't going to start now. He called to ask a question. The first honest question I'd ever heard Gerald ask. What do I do now? Daniel was quiet for a moment. That's between you and Mom, Dad, but you could start by answering her honestly, about the emails, about why you helped, about why you never said no to anything she asked, even when you knew it was wrong. Gerald was quiet for a long time, so long that Daniel checked to see if the call had dropped. Then Gerald said, I don't know how. Daniel, that's not my problem to solve anymore, Dad. He hung up. I looked at him. Are you okay? He set his phone on the table. I'm not okay, but I'm honest, and that's better. We got married 6 weeks later. Wildberry Creek Vineyard. 80 guests, the original 80. Not 120. Not Vivian's version. Ours. The ceremony was outdoors, 4 p.m., the way we'd planned it on a yellow legal pad at my kitchen table. Wildflower arrangements on every table. Cornflowers, black-eyed Susans, sprigs of lavender. Farm-to-table dinner with roasted chicken, grilled vegetables, a salad with local goat cheese. Vegetarian plates for my mother and 3 other guests. Carrot cake with cream cheese frosting, because carrot cake was Daniel's actual favorite and always had been. Jenna stood next to me in a navy dress she'd picked herself. Daniel's best man was his college roommate Marcus, not his father. When the officiant asked, "Who gives this woman?" my mother stood. Her voice was clear and steady, the way she'd talked to nervous patients for 30 years. Her mother does, and her father, who's watching. I married Daniel Whitfield on a Saturday afternoon in October, in an $800 dress I'd bought with my own money, in front of people who loved us for who we actually were. No Whitfield family sat in the front rows. Patricia sent a card. No signature, no apology, just a gift card to Target. Gerald sent a check for $5,000 with a handwritten note. For your new start. I'm sorry I never said anything. I deposited the check. I didn't write back. Vivian sent nothing. No card, no gift, no message. Nothing at all. I didn't expect anything. And for the first time in 14 months, that silence didn't feel like a wound. It felt like space. 6 months after the wedding, Vivian resigned from the church fundraiser committee. She didn't attend the country club Christmas gala. She stopped hosting her annual New Year's brunch, the event that had anchored Henderson County's social calendar for 15 years. The women who had laughed at the shower didn't apologize. They just stopped calling. They stopped inviting her to lunches. They stopped forwarding her the committee emails. They erased her the way she'd tried to erase me, not with cruelty, but with silence. Patricia's husband Todd came home one evening and asked her a question that, according to Daniel, changed their marriage. Would your mother do that to our daughter-in-law someday? Patricia didn't answer. She started therapy the following week. Gerald still lives in the Colonial on the Hill. He eats dinner alone most nights. Vivian is there. She hasn't left. But she's quieter now. The woman who controlled every room she entered has stopped entering rooms. She hasn't called Daniel. Daniel hasn't called her. That silence sits between them like the 47 emails. Documented, undeniable, and too heavy to move. I don't hate Vivian. I don't think about her most days. I think about the girl in the wedding photograph. The 22-year-old standing alone at her own reception while Rose turned her back. I think about how that girl had 36 years to choose a different path. And I think about the fact that she didn't. The cycle didn't break itself. Daniel broke it. And I handed him the hammer. Here's what I learned sitting in that chair at the Laurel Room. The people who hand you a gift bag full of insults aren't strong. They're terrified. Terrified that you don't need what they're offering. Terrified that their approval isn't the currency they thought it was. And the most powerful thing you can do is hand it back. Gently, calmly, with your spine straight. And let them sit with the weight of what they gave you. That's my story. A white gift bag with gold tissue paper. A gym membership to a country club I never joined. A cookbook I never opened. A note in perfect cursive. And a man who stood up in a room full of his mother's friends and chose the woman he loved. If someone in your life has ever tried to make you earn a seat you already deserved, share this with them. Subscribe for more stories, and I'll see you in the next one.